Welcome to Mighty IGHTUNT, where every story hides a truth that refuses to sleep, where silence listens and shadows remember. Tonight's story is not fiction. At least, that's what the one who lived it believes. So turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and don't look too long into the mirror. Because this one is called She Waved at Me from the Mirror. I've never really believed in ghosts. Growing up, my mother used to say, "Mirrors remember faces." I always laughed at that. It sounded poetic, not real. To me, a mirror was just a piece of glass. Cold, silent, harmless. But now when I look at one, I can't help but feel it's looking back. It all started last winter when I moved back into my parents' old house. They'd retired and moved to the countryside, leaving the place for me while I sorted out my life after the breakup. The house wasn't big, but it carried decades of memories. Creaky floors, framed photos of smiling faces, and the faint smell of my mother's jasmine perfume still lingering in the hallway. I was alone most evenings. My job as a freelance designer kept me at my desk until late, surrounded by half-empty mugs and the soft hum of my laptop. It wasn't a bad life. Quiet, predictable. The kind of calm I thought I needed. There was one room I didn't use much, the guest bedroom upstairs. My mother had redecorated it years ago, painting the walls pale blue and placing this massive, antique mirror against one corner. She'd bought it from some estate sale. Saying it gave the room character. It was tall, with a wooden frame carved into strange floral patterns, the kind you can't quite tell if they're vines or faces. The glass had a faint warping to it, like looking through water. The first few weeks were uneventful. I'd pass by the guest room door sometimes, catch a glimpse of my reflection, and think nothing of it. But one night, around midnight, I walked past and noticed something odd. The light was off in the room, yet the mirror seemed brighter, like it held its own dim glow, reflecting more than it should. I paused at the doorway, rubbed my eyes, and blamed it on exhaustion. Maybe the moonlight was hitting it at a weird angle through the window. I didn't check. I just went back downstairs, turned on the TV for background noise, and forgot about it. A few days later, I heard what sounded like a whisper,
Soft faint.
coming from upstairs. It wasn't a word I could understand. Just the sound of someone breathing out slowly, like a sigh. I froze mid-step, waiting for it again. But silence filled the house. The heater clicked on, the pipes groaned a little, and I convinced myself it was nothing. Old houses make noises, right? But then the small things began stacking up. I'd find my bathroom door half, open when I knew I'd shut it. My toothbrush moved slightly out of place. A glass in the sink that I didn't remember using. It was subtle enough to shrug off, but it left me uneasy. Like the air in the house had thickened just a little. I called my mom one evening while cooking. "You ever notice weird sounds in the house?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She chuckled. "Oh, those old pipes? They've always been noisy. Don't let them get to you." "Yeah," I said, smiling at her voice through the phone. "Probably just that. But deep down, something felt off. The sounds weren't mechanical. They had rhythm. Intention. That night, I couldn't sleep. The wind was howling outside, and every creak in the house felt amplified. I turned on my bedside lamp, reached for my phone, and glanced at the clock, 2:47 a.m. I sat up, breathing slowly, telling myself to calm down. That's when I heard a faint tap. It came from upstairs. 1, 2, then silence. I waited. Another 2 taps, like fingernails against glass. I got out of bed and listened again. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I told myself I'd go look, just to prove there was nothing. I grabbed the flashlight from my drawer and walked up the creaky stairs. The hallway light flickered once when I turned it on. The tapping had stopped. Every instinct in me screamed to go back, but pride kept me moving forward. I reached the guest room door and slowly pushed it open. The room was still. The mirror stood there tall and unblinking, catching the faint beam from my flashlight. I looked at my reflection, pale, tired, slightly shaking. I scanned the rest of the room. Nothing was out of place. No open windows. No sounds. I exhaled, half laughing at myself. "You're losing it?" I whispered. Then, as I turned to leave, I noticed something strange in the mirror. My reflection, it was a second slower than me. A tiny lag, barely noticeable, but there. I blinked, leaned closer, and it blinked a fraction too late. I stood there for several seconds frozen. My throat went dry. I raised my hand slightly, waved it once. The reflection followed, perfectly, this time. Maybe it was the flickering light. Maybe my eyes were tired. That's what I told myself as I backed out of the room and shut the door behind me. I slept with the light on that night. The next morning, I almost convinced myself it didn't happen. The sun poured through the kitchen windows, warm and golden. Everything looked normal again, safe even. I made coffee, sat at the table, and tried to focus on work. But as I passed the hallway later that day, I glanced at the guest room again. The door was open now. I was sure I'd closed it. And from where I stood, just for a split second before the sunlight shifted, I thought I saw her. A faint silhouette in the mirror, standing where I had been the night before. And she was waving. I didn't sleep well for days after that. Every creak in the house, every faint sound of the wind brushing against the windows made my chest tighten. I told myself I was overreacting, that what I saw was just a trick of the light, some optical illusion caused by the warped glass. But each night, that uneasy feeling grew stronger, like the house itself was watching me. I decided to keep the guest room door closed. Always. It sounds ridiculous now, but just knowing that mirror was behind that door made my skin crawl. Still, I couldn't bring myself to cover it or move it. It wasn't fear exactly. It was this quiet, dreadful curiosity, like if I ignored it too long, something worse might happen. A week later, my best friend Rafi came over. We'd been close since college. The kind of friend who can tell when something's off without asking. "You look like hell," he said, stepping inside. "Thanks," I muttered, setting down the coffee I'd made. He glanced around the place, then back at me. "You're not sleeping, are you?" I hesitated. "It's this house. It feels weird." Rafi smirked. "Weird how, like ghosts?" I forced a laugh. "No, not ghosts. Just I don't know. Noises. Things not where I left them." "Old house?" he said, shrugging. "You're alone too much, man. You need to get out." He was probably right. That night, we watched a movie and drank a few beers. It felt good having someone there, hearing another person's voice echo through the halls. Around midnight, Rafi yawned. "I'm crashing on the couch," he said. "No way I'm driving home this late." "Yeah, of course." At around 2 a.m., I woke to the sound of footsteps above me. Slow, deliberate, almost hesitant. The guest room. I lay still, heart pounding. The steps went from one end of the room to the other, then stopped. I whispered, "Rafi," but there was no answer. I grabbed my phone, its screen lighting up the darkness, and texted him, "Are you awake?" No reply. I stared at the ceiling, every nerve in my body screaming at me to go check. But I couldn't move. I just lay there listening. Then came the faintest sound, a single, soft tap tap, followed by something dragging, like fingertips on glass. I didn't sleep again that night. In the morning, I found Rafi at the kitchen table, looking pale. He had dark circles under his eyes and held his coffee like it was the only thing keeping him steady. "Rough night?" I asked, trying to sound normal. He looked up at me. "Did you go upstairs last night?" My stomach dropped. "No." "Why?" He stared at me for a long moment, then said quietly, "I thought I saw someone in that room." I woke up and heard a door creak. I looked up the stairs, and I swear I saw a woman standing there. Just standing. "I thought it was you messing with me." I didn't speak. I couldn't. We went upstairs together, daylight flooding through the windows. The door to the guest room was slightly open. Inside, everything looked untouched, except for the mirror. There was a single handprint on the glass. Faint, pale, like it had been pressed from the inside. Rafi left soon after that, muttering that maybe he was just tired. But I could see the unease in his eyes. That same night, I noticed he'd stopped replying to my texts. I tried to stay busy, working longer hours, filling the silence with podcasts and TV shows. But every evening, as the light dimmed, the atmosphere in the house would shift. The air would grow colder, heavier. Shadows seemed to linger longer than they should, as if they had weight. Then came the whispers again. Louder this time. Not words exactly, just a soft, rhythmic murmuring that seemed to come from behind the walls. I followed the sound one night, flashlight in hand, tracing it to the guest room. I stood outside the door listening. The whispering stopped. I pushed the door open slowly. The mirror reflected my flashlight beam, the warped glass bending the light into strange, ghostly shapes. My reflection looked back face pale, eyes wide. I took a step closer. For a moment, I thought I saw movement behind me, a dark figure standing just over my shoulder in the reflection. I spun around. Nothing. When I turned back, the reflection was perfectly normal again. That's when I noticed something chilling. The faint outline of the handprint had reappeared, but this time there were two. One smaller, one larger, like someone else had joined her. I shut the door hard and backed away, heart hammering in my chest. I didn't tell anyone after that. Who would believe me? Even I didn't fully believe what I was seeing. Maybe it was stress. Maybe I was losing my mind. But deep down, something inside me whispered that it wasn't in my head. That night, I slept on the couch again, facing away from the stairs. Around 3:00 a.m., I woke to a faint creaking sound, the slow, rhythmic kind of someone walking barefoot on old wood. My stomach twisted. I didn't turn around. I just listened. The sound stopped at the bottom of the stairs. For a long moment, there was silence. Then, so faint I almost missed it, a whisper drifted through the darkness. "Look at me." I froze. My body refused to move. The air felt thick, pressing down on my chest. The whisper came again, closer this time. "Please look." I shut my eyes tight, pretending to sleep. After a long, breathless minute, the sound faded, replaced by something else. The faint scrape of a fingernail, sliding slowly across a mirror upstairs. I didn't sleep until the sun rose. And when I finally gathered the courage to go upstairs that morning, the guest room door was wide open again. Inside, the mirror was spotless. No handprints, no smudges. But the faint smell of jasmine, my mother's perfume, filled the room. For the next few days, I tried to act like everything was normal. I worked, cooked, cleaned, even left the house more often. But no matter how long I stayed away, the thought of that mirror kept crawling back into my head. It was like a magnet for my fear. Quiet, patient waiting. I started sleeping in the living room permanently. I told myself it was because the couch was comfortable, but the truth was I couldn't stand being upstairs anymore. Every time I walked past that hallway, I could feel it, a cold prickle at the back of my neck, as if something unseen was standing just behind me. It wasn't just the sounds anymore. It was the dreams. They started one night when I dozed off watching TV. In the dream, I was standing in front of the mirror. The room was darker than usual, but the reflection was lit, softly, like a candle was burning behind the glass. And there she was. A woman. Pale skin, long black hair, and eyes so hollow it looked like they'd been carved out. She didn't move. She just stood there, smiling faintly, like she'd been waiting for me. When I tried to step back, she didn't move with me. My reflection stayed frozen in place, but she tilted her head, slow and deliberate. Then she lifted her hand and waved. That's when I woke up. Heart racing, shirt soaked with sweat. The TV was still on, casting a faint blue light across the room. I tried to laugh it off. Just a dream, I whispered. But when I turned my head toward the staircase, I froze. The guest room door was open again. I stared at it for a full minute, trying to convince myself it had been open earlier, that maybe I'd forgotten to close it. But deep down I knew. I always made sure it was shut. The next day, I called my mother again. "Mum," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "where did you get that mirror?" She hesitated. "Why?" "I don't know, it just feels strange, like it's out of place here." "Oh, that old thing," she said lightly. "I bought it from a woman in town. I think her family was selling off furniture from her late sister's estate." "Why?" "What happened to her sister?" "I don't know." "Sweetheart, why are you asking all this?" I paused. "No reason. Just curious." She laughed softly. "You're overthinking again. Maybe it's time to move on from that breakup and stop scaring yourself." Home. I wanted to believe she was right. But that night, the dream came back. Same mirror. Same woman, but this time she spoke. Her lips moved slowly, almost tenderly, like she was whispering a secret. I couldn't hear her words at first. It was muffled, distant, like she was speaking underwater. I leaned closer, and that's when I heard it. "Don't look away." I woke up gasping, my throat dry. For a moment, I didn't know where I was. Dream and reality seemed to bleed together. I grabbed my phone to check the time. 3:03 a.m., and then I saw it. In the hallway mirror, the small one above the console table, a faint movement behind me. I turned around instantly. Nothing. But when I looked back, the reflection still showed her, standing halfway up the stairs. I dropped the phone. It hit the floor with a crack, and the reflection flickered out of view. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely pick it up. The house was dead silent again, but that silence felt alive, heavy, aware. I started keeping the lights on at night. Every room. I even covered some of the mirrors with towels, but I couldn't bring myself to touch that one upstairs. It was like I knew something bad would happen if I tried. By the end of the week, my mental state was unraveling. I was jumpy, anxious, and barely sleeping. My coworkers noticed it on video calls. "You okay, man?" one of them asked. "You look off." "Yeah, I lied." "Just tired." But I wasn't tired. I was haunted. One night, I decided I had to end it. I'd move the mirror out, sell it, donate it, anything. I waited until morning when the sun was bright and poured into the room. I told myself, sunlight kills fear. The mirror stood there, ordinary as ever. I grabbed the frame, cold under my fingers, and tried to lift it, But it didn't budge. It was heavier than it looked. I leaned my shoulder into it and managed to tilt it slightly. That's when something behind the glass shifted. It wasn't my reflection. For a second, just one breath, I saw her again. Only this time, she wasn't smiling. Her face was twisted, mouth open in a silent scream, eyes locked on mine. I stumbled back, hitting the wall, gasping. The mirror rocked but didn't fall. And then I heard it. A whisper right next to my ear. Not from the mirror, not from anywhere physical. It came from inside me. You shouldn't have touched it. I bolted out of the room and slammed the door shut. My heart was beating so hard I could taste blood. I pressed my back against the wall, breathing in shallow bursts. That night, I dreamt again. But it wasn't a dream anymore. I was standing in the same room, facing the mirror. She was closer this time, right at the surface, her fingertips pressed against the glass. And slowly, impossibly, the glass began to ripple. Her hand pushed through, pale, wet, trembling, leaving streaks of water across the frame. I couldn't move. Couldn't scream. She lifted her face, eyes hollow, and whispered the same words I'd heard before. Don't look away. When I woke up, I was standing in front of the guest room door, my hand on the knob. I had no memory of getting there. The door was cold under my palm, and on the other side I heard something soft, something breathing. That's when I realized the truth. Whatever was in that mirror, it wasn't trapped anymore. The night it finally happened, the air felt wrong from the start. Heavy, still. The kind of stillness that presses against your eardrums until every sound feels too loud. I remember pacing the living room, the floorboards creaking beneath my bare feet. The clock on the wall ticked louder than usual, each second stretching longer, sharper, crueler. I'd left every light on in the house. The warm glow made me feel safer somehow, like the darkness couldn't cross that thin barrier of brightness. But deep down, I knew it was useless. The thing in that mirror wasn't bound by light or dark. It was bound to me. It was close to midnight when I heard the first sound, a single thud from upstairs, not like something falling, more like a footstep, slow, deliberate. I froze, eyes fixed on the ceiling. Then came another. I whispered to myself, no, not tonight. I grabbed the flashlight, even though every light was already on, and started up the stairs. Each step groaned beneath me. The air grew colder with every rise, biting through my skin. At the top, the hallway stretched before me like a throat, narrow, shadowed, suffocating. The guest room door was open again, wide this time, like a mouth waiting to swallow. The mirror glowed faintly in the light. Not reflection. Not moonlight. It was something else, a pulse. Like it was breathing. I took a step forward, flashlight trembling in my hand. The beam hit the mirror and scattered like mist. My reflection stared back, face pale, eyes sunken. Then, movement, behind me. A shape shifting in the reflection's background. I spun around, nothing. When I looked back, I froze. She was there. Not in the reflection anymore. Standing in front of it. Half her body still shimmering as though made of smoke, the other half pale and solid. Her hair hung limp, her skin almost translucent. But her eyes, God, those eyes, they were endless black and empty. I stumbled backward. What do you want? My voice cracked. She tilted her head slowly, like she didn't understand the question. Then she smiled, small, trembling, broken, and from that smile came a sound that will never leave me. A scream. Not loud at first, a whisper scream, if that makes sense. But it grew, stretching, multiplying, until the walls themselves seemed to echo with it. The lights flickered violently, and I heard every bulb pop one by one. The house plunged into chaos. Shadows twisting, furniture rattling, doors slamming. I dropped the flashlight. The beam rolled across the floor, spinning in frantic circles, flashing glimpses of her moving closer. Each time the light hit her, she looked different, older, decayed, like time itself was tearing through her. I ran. I don't even remember making the decision. My legs just moved. Down the stairs, tripping halfway, crashing into the wall. I hit the floor hard, pain shooting up my arm. Somewhere above me, footsteps followed. Slow, dragging, heavy. I crawled toward the front door, my breath ragged. The doorknob was freezing cold. When I pulled it open, nothing. Just a black void, no street, no sky, no wind. It was as if the outside world didn't exist anymore. I slammed it shut, backing away. Then came the whisper, right beside me. You shouldn't have looked away. I turned. Flashlight beam trembling across the living room. The woman was standing at the foot of the stairs now, one hand clutching the banister, her face hidden by her hair. She moved wrong, her limbs bending slightly too far, her head twitching with every step. I stumbled backward toward the kitchen. "Leave me alone," I screamed. But she didn't stop. The air turned bitter cold. Frost began to spread across the windows, creeping in delicate, branching veins. My breath came out in white clouds. Then every mirror in the house began to hum. A deep, low vibration that rattled through my skull. I covered my ears. The hum grew louder, almost a voice, echoing from everywhere and nowhere. My name, over and over, whispered, screamed, begged. I backed into the kitchen counter, knocking over dishes. Glass shattered at my feet. I grabbed the largest shard without thinking, clutching it like a weapon. In its reflection, I saw her standing right behind me. I spun around, nothing. When I looked back into the shard again, she was closer. Something inside me snapped. I threw the shard across the room. It shattered against the wall, scattering fragments everywhere. The moment it broke, the house went silent. No humming, no whispers, no footsteps. Just silence. I stood there, chest heaving, sweat dripping down my face. For a few long seconds, I thought it was over. Then the lights flickered once more, and all at once, every reflective surface in the room moved. Every piece of broken glass, every shiny spoon, the black screen of the TV, they all showed her face. Dozens of them, each one smiling, each one watching, and then, from somewhere deep inside the walls, a voice came, not hers. Mine? You can't run from your reflection. I screamed and ran for the stairs, not knowing why, not thinking. Maybe some part of me believed if I faced it, I could end it. I burst into the guest room, lungs burning. The mirror was glowing brighter now, the frame trembling like it was alive. She stood in front of it again, half in shadow. But now I saw something new, a faint outline behind her. Another figure. A man, same height, same shape as me. He stepped forward, and when the light hit his face, my blood turned to ice. It was me. My reflection smiled from inside the glass. The woman turned her head toward him and whispered something I couldn't hear. Then they both lifted their hands and waved. I stumbled backward as the mirror cracked down the middle, a sharp, splintering sound echoing through the house. The last thing I saw before the lights went out completely was my own face in the shards, smiling even as I screamed. And then, nothing. When I woke up, everything was quiet. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was wrong. The kind of silence that buzzes in your ears and makes you wonder if you've gone deaf. I was lying on the floor of the guest room, the air thick with the smell of dust and something metallic, almost like blood. The mirror was cracked from top to bottom, its pieces still clinging to the frame like shards of ice. Morning light slipped through the curtains, painting slanted lines across the broken glass. I pushed myself up slowly, every muscle in my body stiff and trembling. My head throbbed. My hands were shaking. For a moment, I thought I had dreamt everything. The screams, the woman, the reflection. Maybe I'd finally lost my mind. Weeks of insomnia and fear had just eaten through the last bit of sanity I had left. But then I saw it. One of the shards on the floor still held my reflection. Only it wasn't me. The face staring back had hollow eyes, pale skin, and that faint crook smile. I dropped the shard, my breath catching in my throat. It clinked softly on the wooden floor, rolling under the dresser. I backed away, almost tripping over the edge of the rug. Downstairs, the clock ticked again. I hadn't heard it in hours. I took it as a good sign, the sound of normal life returning. I clung to that tiny thought and stumbled down the stairs, gripping the railing to keep my balance. The house was a mess. Chairs knocked over, shattered glass everywhere. Frost still clinging to the windows despite the sunlight pouring through. I moved from room to room, searching for something, anything, that would prove I wasn't losing my mind. But everything looked untouched, like the house had exhaled, erasing every trace of the night before. I called Rafi. He didn't answer. I tried again. Still nothing. Then I called my mother, praying she'd pick up. Hello. Her voice came, soft and calm, like nothing was wrong. Mom, I breathed out, voice trembling. You need to listen to me. That mirror. Slow down, sweetheart, she said gently. What about the mirror? It's not right. There's something inside it. Someone. Silence on the line. Then she spoke again quietly. You saw her, didn't you? My stomach dropped. What? The woman in the mirror. Her tone didn't sound surprised. It sounded resigned, like she'd been expecting this. I gripped the phone tighter. What do you mean? You knew. I didn't think you would see her, she said, voice trembling now. I thought the mirror's pull would fade once we left. That house always had things. I should have warned you. I felt cold all over. What do you mean things? Her voice cracked. The woman's name was Clara, the one who owned that mirror before me. They said she used to sit in front of it for hours, talking to her reflection. After she died, her sister found her sitting in that same chair, eyes open, smiling at the glass. She never moved again. I sank into a chair, staring at the floor. And you brought that thing into our home. I didn't believe it then, she said softly. I thought it was just a story. But now, she paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. Don't look into it again, my love. Whatever happens, don't meet her eyes. The line went dead. The phone slipped from my hand. My chest felt tight, my pulse thudding in my ears. I sat there for what felt like hours replaying her words. Don't meet her eyes. But it was already too late. As the sun began to set, the light in the house changed. The golden glow faded into gray, and with it came that familiar chill, that heavy pressure in the air, like before a storm. I could feel it gathering again, thickening around me. I heard a faint crack from upstairs. Every instinct told me to leave, to run, to never look back. But something inside me needed to see it, to know. Maybe I thought if I faced her one last time, it would end. Or maybe I just wanted proof that I wasn't insane. The stairs creaked beneath me as I climbed. The hallway was dim, washed in the dying light of sunset. At the end, the guest room door stood half open. A faint glow flickered from inside, pale and pulsing like light trapped underwater. I stepped in. The mirror was whole again. Not a single crack. Smooth. Perfect. And she was there, standing exactly where I'd seen her before, her hand pressed gently against the inside of the glass. Her eyes were softer now. Almost human. I should have looked away, but I didn't. Something about her gaze held me. Why me? I whispered. Her lips parted, and this time I heard her voice clearly. It wasn't harsh or hollow, it was calm, almost kind. Because you looked back, the room darkened around us, the light dimming until the only thing visible was her face. The mirror rippled again, waves spreading across its surface. I could hear faint whispers, dozens of them, overlapping, some crying, some laughing, all trapped beneath the glass. And then my reflection smiled. I wasn't smiling. I felt my mouth stay still, but in the mirror my reflection tilted its head, lips curling upward. My heart stopped cold. Stop, I whispered. Stop that. The reflection lifted its hand, mimicking the woman beside it, and they both began to wave. The surface of the mirror shimmered, pulling me in with invisible gravity. I stumbled backward, but the floor felt wrong, soft, shifting like water. My body was trembling, my vision warping. Then the glass cracked again, not breaking outward this time, but inward, pulling everything toward it. The air roared around me. My ears filled with that terrible whisper. My name over and over, until it became one endless hum. I reached for the door, but the handle slipped away, the whole room bending like reflection itself. The last thing I saw before the darkness swallowed me was her hand. Cold white, pressing against mine through the glass. And then nothing. I don't remember how I got out. Maybe I didn't. They say people still see lights flickering in that house at night, that sometimes if you pass by the upstairs window, you can see someone standing there, a silhouette waving through the glass. If you ever visit, don't wave back, because it might not be your reflection that's waving at you. If you're still listening, remember, mirrors don't always reflect what's in front of them. Sometimes they show what's waiting behind you. Thank you for joining Medi and JHT Ho and T. If this story reached into your nightmares, leave a comment, share your thoughts, and maybe tell me, have you ever seen something move when you didn't? Until next time, keep your lights low and your eyes open, because the night is still hunting.